Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Twist Gaming. We are here live from Origins 2019, bringing you all of the best board game coverage. I am joined here with Keith from Thunderworks Games.
Hey, everybody.
Keith, thank you so much for taking time to come and join me and hang out.
Happy to be here.
You brought lots of boxes.
Yes, very true, yeah.
So Thunderworks is really known for the role player series.
Right, yeah. So,
you're not just a pretty face. You made the game, too.
Role Player is a game I designed, and has been, had a decent amount of success, and people have really been enjoying the game for the last couple of years, and last year we released, me being the first expansion for the game, and I'm here today to talk about the next one. So,
awesome.
Yeah, the first one was called Monsters and Minions, and this one is called Fiends and Familiars. This is a prototype, obviously. And Fiends and Familiars goes live on June 25th on Kickstarter, and it's got a bunch of cool new stuff I'd love to show you.
So before we dive in too far, can you give me a top overview of what role player is for those of us that are not familiar?
Sure. So role player is it takes that night where you're getting together with your friends and rolling up characters for your D&D or Pathfinder campaign, and it turns that into a game. So it's a character creation game where everyone is drafting and manipulating dice, and they're buying cards that represent weapons and armor and skills and traits, and you're basically trying to meet your stat goals, and you've got a backstory card where you're looking for certain colored dice in certain areas. You get a character sheet that has 18 holes to put dice in, and then you're also kind of managing your character's alignment, and basically once everybody's sheets are filled with dice, then you go through this thing where you score everybody's character, see who made the best character, and declare a winner. So the first expansion added a lot of stuff, but the big bullet points was a fifth player, and the big thing was that it added combat. So instead of buying cards in the market, you could choose to go find a small monster, which is called a minion, and then at the very end, everybody takes a swing at a big monster, and depending on how much damage you do, you're going to get points. So it kind of adds another kind of victory point path to that game. And that was very well received. It's up for the Dice Tower has set us up for the best expansion for 2018. So
that's fantastic. Congratulations.
That's a wonderful honor, to be. I think I'm going up against Scythe and Root.
Oh, wow.
So there's some heavy competition, but I'm honored to be kind of in that group for sure. So this is the next big piece.
Okay. So I need board game magic, Keith.
Okay.
So that we can switch over to that board cam. Which means we need some spirit. There we go. I didn't have to explain it. You knew, and this
just happened.
It's so awesome.
So so the big piece is the Familiars. So this is a new board you'll get. You're dealt two. You're dealt two, and you choose one. And each one, they've got 3 new spaces to put dice, right? And then you care about a couple things here. It's you're looking for certain colored dice, just in the backstory of the base game.
Okay.
But you're looking for tells you what colored dice you're looking for and how many points at the end of the game you'll get if you match them.
So I'm going to peek through here just to see if I can. There we go. I'm going to grab this one just because of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So then this one is.
There's your Nalos leopard, and he is looking for his dice to add up to 5 or 6, so it's a lower value. And then he's looking for dice that's the white, the purple, and the red. And then if you match all 3, then you'll get 3 points. And if you match 2 of them, you'll get 1 point. If you match 1 of them, you get nothing.
Yay! I think that's smart.
So, and then each one has a special ability. So just like in Role Player, every time you place a die, you can take an attribute action, which means flipping a die to its opposite side, or swapping the dice placement of 2 dice. And this one, everyone has their own kind of unique power. So whenever you place a die into the leopard, then you've got you can take this action. And this one says, after placing a die on the leopard, you may spend 2 gold to take any attribute action, which can be very powerful in the game at the right time. So you have expanded options there. Because we have 3 new spaces for everybody to put dice in, we need more dice, right?
Of course.
The base game of Role Player has 73 dice in the bag.
That doesn't sound like enough at all.
Right. You get the expansion, you've got another 18, and so with this one, we're adding another 15. In the first expansion, you had dice that were added that were called boost dice.
Okay.
And they have a value between 3 and 8 instead of 1 and 6.
Okay.
And they don't have a color. So they're going to help you hit your stats, but they're not so helpful getting your backstory card or kind of meeting the colors.
Other things that need that requirement.
Right. Now, we're with Fiends and Familiars, we have a new kind of dice called split dice, and these are kind of the inverse of that. So they go between The values go between 1 and 4, so it goes 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, and they count for 2 different colors, and so it's kind of those 2 colors simultaneously. So if you need a red in that space, you can find a red, or you can find the red black, or you can find the red purple,
like the
or
red
whatever.
The red and the blue one here.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at that. I'm so good at this game already.
2 bonus points for you, and then. So that's kind of the new piece, and because you're adding three more dice, instead of just kind of adding three rounds to the game, because every round you're adding a die, we've kind of changed how the setup works. So now at the first part of the game, depending on the number of players, you're going to draft 2 dice at a time, and place them both, and you get to take one of the actions, which is can create some really interesting decision points. So we've got the familiars and we've got the dice. There's 12 new classes in the game, so the base game had 12, and the first expansion is 12, and now we're up to 36 with this expansion.
So what is special about the new classes that are included in with the new expansion?
So every class card has a different combination of stars, which means you're looking for a different combination of stats per attribute. So you're, Some characters are trying to get really high in strength, whereas other ones don't have to get so high or whatever. And then each class also has a special ability, which is on the right-hand side of the card.
So the fighter here is hardened, so after selecting the red die in the dice phase, you may banish a fiend.
Right. So what is a fiend, you may ask, because that's also brand new. In the game, in Role Player, there's a row of initiative cards, and the dice get rolled out onto them, and then you get to select which die you want based on. There's a bunch of decision points here. It's like if you take, they get rolled out in numerical order from lowest to highest. So if you want the highest value die, you can take that card, but that also means that you are going to buy last in the market phase. So now things get even more interesting. So you've got a new set of initiative cards, and depending on the number of players, some of them will have this fiend icon. Now, this is not the final graphic design, but it's the basic idea.
This is what happens for Kickstarter, and I think that just making this very clear that when before games go on Kickstarter, these are all pre-production. Anything could change.
Exactly. And to be honest, they look way cooler now, but I didn't get a chance to print it in time. But anyway, what happens is a fiend card goes on the higher value initiative card. So let's say we're playing with 5. So on this instance, one of these fiend cards goes on that card. And then when you take that card, you have to take him. Now he's the fiend too. Yeah, the fiend. He's not particularly nice, right?
A fiend is self-sacrifice. No, that doesn't sound particularly nice.
It says in the dice phase, you cannot select. You cannot select a die of your class color unless there's no other option to. So
that's so rude.
He's a mean guy. So the fiend cards create a new obstacle for you to try to overcome, and also there's kind of a higher penalty for taking the higher value dice. But maybe you're not so worried about that, and so you can take that, and it's not a big deal. Or maybe he's getting in your way, and if you can get rid of him. So you can banish a fiend by spending a charisma token. So in the Role Player, you get charisma tokens for placing dice in charisma, and charisma tokens have always been one of those things that kind of fans of the game have always thought like maybe they're not as useful as they could be or whatever. So now charisma tokens are critical. There's much more value in them now. So banishing a fiend can really save your tail, and it gives. Well, you're like, hey, that guy over there seems cool. Why don't you hang out with him? Or you can spend money to banish him, so you can also pay him off, basically. And so it's only on the highest value cards. So usually, like 1 will come out each round. And then there's other cards that reward you for having banished fiends as well. So sometimes that's something you want. And then there's we're going deeper into other categories, like where now we had more classes. We also have more minions in the game. So minions are the smaller monsters you can fight.
So even though this is the Fiends and Familiars expansion, we're still adding some more of the monsters and minions from the initial expansion.
Yeah, you got it. So that means there's also a whole bag of combat dice, and there's experience points. So people who are familiar with monsters and minions know exactly what those things do. And that's a good question. You do not. So the base game, you can play the base game plus Fiends and Familiars, or you can play the base game plus monsters, or you can have all 3, and you get kind of the widest variety of options. I personally think it's best with all 3, but if you're not the monsters thing isn't you want to try this one first or whatever, this is definitely you don't need the monsters to play. So these are all new minions. They're all unique, and something that's kind of interesting about these is some of these give. I don't know, this one's a good option. As So when you fight these, you roll combat dice, and for this particular one, you always start out with one combat die, and this one gives you an extra one for every injury token you have. So that's something that you'll have acquired by, doing poorly at trying to fight these previously. But you roll them, and then notice in the last slot that says 14 plus.
Yeah.
It has that little symbol, which is the reroll symbol in this game. So that's one of the attribute actions. So some of these minions, you actually get to take additional dice manipulation actions by doing well at them. So that's something that's new for this expansion, which is fun.
That's very cool.
And those are all super cool. And then you've got a new set of monsters. So in Monsters and Minions, you had 6 monsters. Now we have 6 more monsters.
Okay.
And they're always kind of associated with color. So there's 6 kind of class colors in the game, and there's 6 different monsters. So previously, if you kind of were playing a 5-player game and you had the option of kind of the blue monster, now you can pick either blue monster. So we've got the Leviathan, the Gorgon, the Hydra, the Cyclops, the Megapede, and the Griffin. So they're all new, and there's a single-player and multiplayer version of each in the box, just like there was in Monsters and Minions.
What changes between the single and the multiplayer version?
Basically, the single-player are harder. The abilities are the same, but like the threshold to get points on them are higher on the single-player.
The Hydra's fantastic.
Yeah, so those that's another set of those, so more variety there.
Oh.
Yes. And then you're going to get a new scorecard and kind of all the stuff that you would expect. But kind of the big pieces are the familiar board, the split dice, the Fiends.
The additional monsters, the additional minions.
Right, these are all new market cards. So in the base game, you're buying these market cards. And then Monsters has more. This has even more. So
is there anything fun or interesting that you did with these market cards that maybe weren't in the initial base game?
Well, a lot of these kind of relate to the split dice or the familiars. But one thing that kind of fans were asking for is that after Monsters came out, one of the big kind of strategies people use is they buy armor cards, because that's kind of set collection for points. And once I added so many more cards with Monsters and Minions, it was kind of harder to collect those sets of armor. And there wasn't a new armor set with Monsters, but in this set there is. So there's kind of a jewelry set that's called Runic. So here's some examples of those. So there's 6 of them, and they've got a different kind of scoring curve than any of the other ones. So in this one, if you have 5 runic pieces, you'll get 10 points, for example. And then they add a value to one of your stats. So they also kind of help you maybe counteract some of the low values that you got on the split dice earlier.
So one to intelligence and one to dex.
Yeah, so since there's 6 cards and there's 6 attributes, it kind of works out. There's one for each.
That's nice.
And so the crown is on your head, so that makes sense that it has to do with intelligence. And I try to inject as much theme into this stuff as I can, and take advantage of that stuff. So it's cool.
I think it's really cool that, twice during this conversation you've mentioned how your fans had asked for something, like with the charisma tokens and that you're truly listening to what they're asking for and trying to make sure that those are being taken into consideration with these expansions.
It's all about the fans. And I always feel like once... I made Roleplay was the game I wanted to make, right? And then once it was out there, then it kind of isn't mine anymore to me. It's their game. Right?
That's such a nice way to think of it. I love that lots.
So, anyway, a lot of people had feedback, and they wanted to do something with your character. So that's kind of my philosophy about roleplay. Was always like, I always use this analogy of like, if you're familiar with Dominion, the deck building game.
It's one of those games where I know that I should be familiar with. Like, I know enough to know that I should be familiar.
Okay, well, at least you're a little familiar with it. But so Dominion, to me, it's a deck building game. It's like a raw, very simple game. To me, Dominion was like to Magic the Gathering, whereas Dominion is like the meta game to some degree of like, you're building your deck, just like when you play Magic, you build your deck ahead of time. Whereas in this game is to Dungeons and Dragons. This is the meta game for D&D or whatever. And that totally works for me, but for some people it doesn't.
Fair enough.
They're like, I made this great character, now I want to do something with it.
Right.
So kind of the Monsters and Minions was kind of a response to that.
To be able to do something now with the characters that you've been building.
Right, and now it's their game.
Right.
So I want to do the things that they want to see, and obviously I'm going to do it in the way that I want to.
Of course.
With my own design sensibilities.
Well, they got the game initially because they wanted your design, right? So they're going to want your touch on the stuff that you're making.
Right. So that's pretty much it.
That's Monsters. Now, Monsters and Minions is... Yes, sure. What's the question from chat? So let me just repeat that. So the question from chat that we have that Josh told me is that if they're new to the Kickstarter, they're new to role player. For one of the pledge levels, are you going to have the base game included as part of the bundle?
Yes. So the Kickstarter will have, obviously multiple reward tiers. There's kind of the basic one, which is the game, and then it's kind of in the same size as the Monsters and Minions bundle. And then there's a lot of fans. This kind of hits that same note of like a lot of fans. They've got the base game and the first expansion in one box, and it's like filled to the brim. Like, this thing is heavy. Nothing's fitting in here, right? And they're like, I can't fit this new expansion in there. Right? I need a new box. So now, I don't know if I've seen this done before, but you've got the regular box, which is the smaller one, and then you've got the big box, which is the same dimensions in terms of height and width, but it's just deeper. It's basically kind of the base game box with the expansion box on top in terms of height. And you can get that, and the contents in that box are identical to the small box, but you just can fit your other game in there too. And then there'll be a tier in which you can get the 2 expansions, and there's one where you get the base game and monsters and the big box for familiars. So, I know people are asking for that, and I think that's cool that that's there.
So you're still definitely taking into consideration the people who are just trying to get their feet into the role player universe.
I mean, but my response to a lot of people that ask those kind of questions is like, Role Player and Monsters and Minions are readily available, and it's in print right now. So if you do end up kind of wanting to go in all in, that's cool, but keep in mind that kind of all that stuff is going to ship together, and you're going to kind of have to wait till early next year to get all of it, whereas then you can just, walk to your local game store or go on Amazon and just kind of order it right now. And you could be playing the base game and the first expansion while you're waiting for the next one. So both are viable options, and I know some people don't like buying online, or they don't live near a local game store, or just kind of want to kind of be more supportive of the creators, and that kind of those bundle options are good for those situations. Yeah.
So these are what is the date again for this Kickstarter?
June 25.
June 25th.
Yeah, it's like less than 2 weeks away.
That's really exciting.
I know, it's going to be awesome.
That's really fantastic. Where can our viewers find out more about the launch for the Kickstarter?
Sure. My website is www.thunderworksgames.com. And there'll be some information there, but also, and you can get on the mailing list to make sure you get an alert if you're like nervous about missing the date. And then I'm also really easy to get a hold of on Facebook and Twitter and stuff. So my Twitter handle is at Thunderworks GAM. Like I ran out of characters and I just truncated it. Maybe it wasn't the best solution, but that's what we did. And just a search on Facebook and find Thunderworks pretty easy.
Very cool. So we're all very excited about the Monsters and Minions Kickstarter, but this is not the only thing that you have in the works for the role player universe.
I'm busy.
You're busy.
Yeah, I'm busy. So I have 2 other games that are both in the world of role player.
Okay.
But they're standalone games. One, and they're both coming out for Gen Con of this year. One is Cartographers, zing, which looks like this. Cartographers is a small $25 game, but it's in like a lot of you're seeing a lot of this of like a roll and write or a flip and write. This is like a flip and write, meaning there's no dice. You're flipping a card. Everybody's kind of drawing based on what comes out, and this is a map drawing game.
Okay.
So you can. You can see these are some completed sheets. That's actually one that I did. So if the artistry isn't so great, you know who to blame. But you're drawing these kind of Tetris shapes based on cards that are coming out. And then there's some...
You've got an awful lot of lollipops there.
Those are trees, young lady. Okay. And you're based on cards that are coming out. So here, why don't you show that?
Yeah, of course.
Here's one that has both
blue and green.
Yeah, so in this one,
this is the Twist exclusive.
Ooh, maybe you should do one that doesn't go away when you put it out there.
But it's very
okay. It doesn't like that green. Here's another option. So in this example, oh man.
Yeah, no green. I mean.
Yeah, I like the color green. It's my favorite. Anyway, so in this particular example, everybody's drawing this 3x3 L, rotating it and flipping it if they want to, and they can fill it with the farm, which is those yellow lines, or they can fill it with water. So a card comes out, and the players have a choice of how they want to draw. The number in the left-hand corner is how much time is passing, and then each round is a season, and there's a certain amount of time that has to pass before everybody scores. So there's a big piece of it. There's also kind of 4 scoring cards that are out. And these are some examples.
The granary and the green gold planes?
Yeah, those are great. So there's 4 that are out at the beginning of each game. And you score 2 of them at the end of each round. So everybody knows how everything's going to score. It's just a matter of like which ones are going to score which round.
Right.
And so for example, the golden granary says you're going to get 3 points that for every farm that's next to a ruin, which is one of the icons on your map.
Okay.
And then 1 point for every water that's next to a ruin.
Okay.
Actually, the green is on top of a ruin, and the blue's
next to it.
But yeah, so those are the kind of scoring cards that are out there. There's a bunch of them that are about villages. Some of them are about water and farm, and then there's some about kind of just shapes, like you fill rows or you're trying to connect 2 sides or whatever. And everybody's drawing and doing their thing, and then at the end of the game, you see who's the coolest cartographer and has the highest points.
How did you do this, Frank Keith?
Yeah, so
64.
That's why that's not the best game in the world. But one of the one of the kind of cool things, and these cards are all purple, so you're gonna love them.
There we go.
One of the unique things about this game is that one of these, what are called ambush cards, get dealt into the deck every round, and it's revealed. And what this means is that on the left-hand side, it says, everybody take their map and pass it to their neighbor to the left.
That's what this is?
That's what that is.
Oh.
And then they're going to draw that shape on your sheet and fill it with little monster icons.
Okay, so that's what these guys are over here.
So somebody else drew those,
kindly.
Yeah, kindly drew those on my map. And what that means is each empty space next to those at the end of the round are worth a negative point. It's only orthogonal, not diagonal. So that's not very nice.
So
right?
this one.
Yeah, exactly. Those are all worth negative points. And if you don't deal with them, they keep being negative points at the end of each round. So you're trying to kind of enclose the monsters, but also meet the goals that are out in front of everyone.
Right.
And then you also can collect coins by putting stuff next to the mountains and stuff. So
basically, and you're essentially thematically building the world that your characters are in for the role player.
To some degree. So thematically, the gnomish Queen Gimnax, has kind of sent cartographers out to map unknown area of the realm, and she has the edicts are like certain things that she prefers you to kind of explore.
Okay.
And depending on how well you do that, you're getting points. So that at the end, you're like the Queen has said, you are the best cartographer.
It's pretty high honor.
Yeah. I mean, Queen Gimnax is pretty hardcore.
I mean, you got to fight kobolds to make a map. It's pretty hardcore.
It's dangerous out there. And then if you pre-order this, so this is available. This is the first game I've ever done outside of Kickstarter, and so this is going kind of straight to retail, or you can pre-order it from my website. And if you do that, there's a 9-card mini expansion that you get for free. That will come with the game when I mail it to you, basically.
And I saw there was an option for Gen Con pickup.
There is. So man, you're so observant. There's basically you can order it and get it on at Gen Con for free. You don't have to pay shipping, I should say. I'm not giving away games.
Get the game for free? Oh man.
Well, maybe for you. No, I'm kidding. It has a little free mini expansion, and then if you end up buying it at the game store later. That mini expansion will be available at Board Game Geek Store or from my website. So,
okay.
But you just get it kind of for free if you pre-order it from me at www.thunderworksgames.com.
Fantastic. And another game that you can make sure that you get at Gen Con.
Oh, yeah. So, Lock Up, a role-player tale. Looks like this. So this is a bigger game, obviously. So this is a $50 game.
Oh, the UV spot is so nice there.
It turned out really good. It's hard to see on the camera, I'm sure, but
there you go.
There you go. It doesn't come with these sound effects.
I mean, we'll clip it.
We get the Foley artist on that one. So this is a game you're playing as the minions from Monsters and Minions. So you're playing as the bad guys.
Okay.
And you're inside this place called Kulbik Prison.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna help.
Let's just go right on top of that stuff. This is So there's like all my games. I'm big a fan of supporting single-player gameplay. So we're just gonna go on top of this.
All right.
In the interest of time. Yeah, that looks great. So. There's a 1 and 2 player side, and then there's the 3 to 5 player side, and you're playing as either the kobolds or the gnolls or the insectoids or the bugbears. It plays 1 to 5 players, and you basically have a bunch of tokens that have like numbers on them, so their strengths, and you're placing them in these different rooms of the prison. In the exercise yard, you're vying to have the highest strength, and the people at the top are going to get power, so their enforcers get more powerful.
This is adorable. The exercise yard.
The art is amazing, right? Lucas Ribierto did all the art in Cartographers and in this game. He's a machine, and he's done a lot of stuff in Role Player as well. So he did a lot of monsters and of familiars. So we've been working on these projects for a long time. So you're trying to get your power more powerful here, like stronger units. In the sewers, you're finding scrap, which is the green resource. In the infirmary, you're getting potions. In the smithy, you're getting iron. And then in the commissary, you're trading for stuff, and you can get kind of a resource that's harder to get, which is gold. And then in the chow hall, you can hire these goons, which kind of become part of your crew. And like here's the rat man, who's a goon.
Oh, he's great.
And here's purple, everybody loves, right? And
the mindful. There we go.
So, though you can hire these goons, and they kind of come to your area, and they have an immediate kind of victory point value or benefit, which is in the upper left-hand corner, and then there's end game victory points at the bottom.
Okay.
And then you move to the cell block, and you can build like contraband stuff. So. Here's some examples of that.
So is there a shank in here? Because I feel like that is...
There's a requirement. There is a shank.
But
a lot of them are kind of lighthearted, like the teeth brush, I think, is one of my favorites.
It's green, but I think that you just kind of have to see it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah, it's kind of pops it out, doesn't it?
Look at the teeth.
Yeah, there's a shank in here. It's like called the Ankh shank. So it's kind of...
Oh, so you made a fancy one.
Yeah, we're fancy here in Callback Prison, right? So there's that.
Too funny.
The green doesn't help, but anyway, so then you're building those things, and then if you're in a room and you didn't get anything, then you get kicked to the library and you get these things called tome cards that let you break the rules of the game somehow. So the interesting piece, besides all this, is that when you put the tokens down and they have different values, some of them are face down and some of them are face up.
Okay.
So when you put them down, and your opponents don't exactly know how strong you're going in there. So there's a little bit of a cat and mouse game there.
Yeah.
Like it's almost feels like. This game is a difficult one to explain to people why it's cool, but like once you play it,
you have a little bit of a mind game there when you're putting your tokens face down.
Right, and so you'll have 6 of them, and 3 of them go face down, and the rest have to be face up.
What is that?
And when you're holding your
so
tokens,
cool.
you have this cool thing. You gotta check this out. So this is a tile holder, and it's got little jail bars, and then your guys are sitting behind
jail bar.
it. Yeah. So. What is it called? That's the green one. So those are the insectoids, and so the insectoids, they all got their own unique art. But when their tokens are on there, this is their guys, and they sit on here. And then when you're so they've got little values, and they've got strengths. There's one guy called a lookout, and why he's important is because this other piece of the game is called suspicion. So you're always trying to avoid suspicion from the guards, and this is represented by these transparent black cubes, which look like that. I mean, nothing super special, but they're still cool. And there's a supply of them, and whenever
those ones aren't green.
Each round they get placed in these different rooms,
Okay.
Depending on which goons are out there, basically. But whoever has the highest strength is going to get the suspicion. And if you have the most suspicion when there's no suspicion left, a raid occurs.
Okay.
And the people with the most suspicion lose points. So you're trying to avoid that. Everybody's got a board that has a place to put your power and a place to put your suspicion.
Yeah.
Here's a purple one, which is always fun. So there's this kind of, you're trying to avoid the suspicion. There's different cards let you put it back to basically, there's one that lets you give suspicion to another player, which is kind of basically them ratting you out to the guards. Your opponent's ratting you out to the guards, basically. So it takes about 90 minutes to play. It plays 1 to 5 players. It has a little bit of deduction. It's kind of like worker placement, and it's kind of... to me, it has the game that has the most similarities with is probably Stone Age, in terms of like everybody's putting their units out, and then you resolve all the rooms in a certain order. Everybody's getting victory points in different ways, and trying to get the most points.
So, are you demoing the games here at the convention?
I am, yeah. So I've got tables in my booth to show this, or both Cartographers and Lockup, and then we're demoing Role Player. And if people want to see the pieces for the expansion, they're there to look at. And then I also have other games like Dual Powers that I released earlier this year that you can demo. So in addition to that, I also have a table in the demo hall that doesn't have specific events. It's behind like the judges table, and people can just walk up and say, "Hey, I want to try this game," and play there as well. So lots of opportunities to try out the latest Thunderworks stuff.
For those people that are here at Origins, what's your booth number?
1131.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a nice sized booth this year, and things have just been going really good. Things are growing for us, and lots of exciting things coming out. So
that's really fantastic.
Thanks.
So if we have viewers who aren't here at Origins, what is the next convention they can kind of get to see what you've got?
Gen Con is the next big one. I am also at PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia. I'll be at Essen this year, which will be the first time I've been. I've never been to. I've actually never been to Germany, so it'll be an adventure. So I'll be there with a booth. There's a smaller convention in Madison, Wisconsin that I do, which is my hometown.
Elisa Teague told me about this one.
Gamehole Con?
Yes.
I always tell it's like a great con with kind of not the greatest name, but anyway, the guys who run that con are really good, and they do a really good job, and it's been growing like crazy. So Gamehole Con is it's over
Halloween.
Halloween. You know these things.
I know things. I play games and I know things.
Do you drink beer and know things?
Cider.
You drink? Okay, that's pretty close. Yeah, so those are the cons that I've been doing. I also do Con of the North in Minnesota because it's kind of closer to me, and I'm looking to figure out some ways to get to more of them. But kind of the big ones for me are Gen Con, Origins, PAX Unplugged, which has been growing like leaps and bounds. I really like that show, and then we'll see how Gen Con goes.
It'll be a lot of fun.
I'll see how X goes.
I hope you really enjoy Germany. I'm very jealous.
Well, we're gonna go like 3 days early and go to Paris, like as a family for a little bit too.
That'll
So,
be really nice.
I'm bringing. My wife is really good. She loves helping with the booth, so she's going with. And it's like if we're going, we're gonna bring the 8-year-old, and then to kind of help keep track of the little guy, we're bringing my mother-in-law as well. So it's gonna be kind of a family trip, and then we're gonna do the show.
Special. So. That's so great. Well, Keith, thank you so much for coming on and showing me all of the stuff that you have.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. Guys, make sure that you check out Keith's booth here at the show. Make sure that you check out the Kickstarter on June 25th. And one more time, where can the audience go to follow up with all of the information?
Yeah, so www.thunderworksgames.com. You can always hit me up on Twitter at ThunderworksGAM. And I'm also on Facebook, and we also have an Instagram account as well. But if you ever have any questions for me, feel free to people send me messages on Facebook and stuff all the time, and I'm like, I have a bit of a reputation for being really responsive. So like if you message me or email me, I'm definitely going to get back to you probably within an hour or two.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I mean obviously the fans are important, and I like sharing my stuff, and I'm very grateful for the support that I've gotten. No,
it really shows, and it shows in what you've done with the games and the directions that you've taken them, and us as a community, we appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Keith, for coming on.
Fantastic.
And stay tuned, guys, for more great live coverage from Origins 2019. I'll be right back.